Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. If this is your first time visiting, please be sure to check out my other videos and see if any of those can help you out. Maybe consider a subscription to the channel. For those that are returning, I appreciate your continued support. This here is my 1993 Honda Civic. I use this as a commuter car. It's a piece of junk as far as the way it looks, but it runs good and it drives good. So this is what I choose to use for my commuter, rather than spend money on a car payment for something I'm putting a whole bunch of miles on. What this thing started to do that's got us looking at it today, I started to notice a clunk in the front end as I was driving up my gravel driveway. I didn't think too much of it. And then about a week ago, it started pulling to the right on the interstate. It was about 70 miles per hour. You can feel it. You have to give it a little bit of a left steering wheel to keep it straight. So I got it up here and got it jacked up, and I was like, okay, well, let me make sure I don't have a bad ball joint or tie rod in. So got it jacked up, supported with a jack stand, of course. And to check for the ball joints, all you have to do really is get it up to this position off the ground, and I'm going to rotate it, or try to rotate the tire like this. And I'm going to see if there's any play in it, which there's not. It feels really good right there. So the next step is going to check for your tie rod in. I'm going to grab it right here and go side to side. Clank, 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 clank. So I have a bad tie rod in. I've already had the tire off. I know which part it is. It's not the outside outer tie rod in. It's the inner tie rod in, which is a little bit trickier to replace. Gone to the parts store. I've got the aftermarket parts. We're going to go ahead and put that on. I'm going to get this tire off, and we're going to show you the procedure for that. Alright guys, this is set up now with my light a little bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. This is your tie rod here. It goes all the way up to the steering rack and connects to your spindle and knuckle right here. What typically fails on these, there's a ball joint under this. It gets the boot on it breaks, the grease leaks out, it gets old, and it starts to wiggle right there. That's when you have to change from here back, this part. Unfortunately for me, my problem is it's the inner tie rod in, which is back there. As I rotate this, you may not be able to see it, but it's moving here. That's where it's moving at. So what I have to do is I have to pull this boot back and get ready to unscrew all of that and run it out. I'm going to try my best to do this on camera so you can see what I'm up to, but the first step is going to be to disconnect the tie rod end, the outer tie rod end here, and then once that's up, then I can get back there and start loosening the inner tie rod end. Alright guys, I got the 17mm nut off the bottom. It does have a pin that runs through it. It was already kind of jacked up, so I just ran that pin down over it. Now I am replacing this outer tie rod end, so I'm not concerned about preserving what I've got here, even though it's not bad yet. It will probably eventually be bad. So all I'm going to do is just hammer this out from the bottom and pop that up off of the knuckle. If I was trying to preserve this, what I would do is I would actually hit the side, give it some good taps. Whatever that piece goes through is what you would hammer to help loosen it up. But I'm just going to come under it and pop it. And there you go. Alright guys, at this point what I've done is I've pushed this rubber boot here back off of the inner tie rod end, and my goal is going to be this part here is to unscrew this without turning the shaft that runs into the steering rack back here. It's kind of hard to show you, but the steering rack has a flat spot on either side 180 degrees from each other, and you can get a wrench on that and you can kind of jam things up in here. And they sell a inner tie rod end puller that actually goes over the end of your tie rod, connects to this, and it makes it a little easier to get this off. I did not get one or rent one. What I'm going to do is try to lock up the steering rack back here, and I'm just going to come on this with an adjustable wrench, and I'm going to try and show you what I'm doing. I'm going to get it set up, and we'll come back and see what I've got. All right, guys, this is my setup here. This back one is a 7/8 inch wrench. It fits over the shaft that this is going to screw onto. And I just have a large crescent or adjustable wrench on this. And just apply pressure one way with the 7/8 and the adjustable the other way. And the goal is going to be to rotate this whole large knuckle off of the steering rack. I'll come back when I've got that done. All right, guys, that was much easier than I thought it was going to be for the tools I was using. But once I broke that outside piece loose, and remember I had the 7/8 was holding on to this part right here to keep that steering rack steady. Once I broke the outside part loose, it pretty much just hand loosened up. Back up the camera here, and I'm going to show you the bad inner tie rod joint. It's a ball and socket. Okay, this is the inner tie rod end. It has a ball and a socket, and this needs to be sturdy. And you can hear, I don't know how well that's showing up on camera, but I'm pushing in and out. You can hear it clicking against itself. It's not when it gets to that point, it needs to be addressed pretty much immediately. I'll show you my tire when I get done. The inside of the tire is showing the radial now because I let this go too far. But we got the new stuff here. The next thing I'm going to do is, see, after you work with anything like this, you probably have to get your car realigned. I'm going to try to make sure that my new setup is the exact same length as this, so I have it as close as I can get it before I take it to the alignment shop. All right, guys, what I've done is I've just set that old tie rod in the way it came out on the concrete here in my garage. And what I've done is I come back with a silver Sharpie. You see I have a mark there and a mark there. That's as close as I can get probably to the actual length of that as it came off. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my new components. Well, how this works is basically that screws into that end there. And I'm going to keep running that down until I have those basically the same length as the one that came out. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. All right, guys, there's my new one. I have it screwed in where I think it's just about right with the marks. I know a lot of people will say, well, you just can't, what you do is when you take the outer tie rod end off, you count how many times it turns. And then when you put the new one on, you just count the same amount of rotations back in. I'm dealing with aftermarket parts. If this was Honda Genuine and the one that came off was Honda Genuine, then I would say, yeah, that would be a good way to go about that. But since it's not, I think that marking this the way I did is probably going to be your best bet to get it back exactly, because if there's a couple extra threads on the old one compared to the new one, you could have a problem there if there's a few less threads. I'm going to put these side by side, back to back, and I'm going to check and see if I've got it about where it was at. And bear in mind, this is just to get me by. I am going to take the car and just spend the money and get the alignment for it because I have to put new tires on it as well. So I'm going to check it again back to back with the old one, and then we'll come back with the installation. All right, guys, I did come back with that back to back and a little bit of finagling. I think I have this as close as I'm going to be able to get it without using a precision tool. All I have to do now is just screw this back into this part here and then tighten it down. All right, guys, again, this is screwed back in. I tighten this down. Now all I have to do now is drop my new outer tie rod in back in right here. All right, it comes with a new nut. I'm going to run that in, and then we're going to get everything put back together. The nut that came with this, it does not have a place for a cotter pin to go through. It came with a nylon lock nut. So I'm going to trust that Duralast knows what they're doing there. The last step here is going to be pull this boot back and just work it over the end of that. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to have a clamp there to hold that. I'm not going to be too worried about it. This car is a 1993 Honda Civic. This is probably the last tie rod in that's ever going to have put on it. So I'm just going to call that good right there. I am going to come back, hold this here, and tighten this nut up back here. When they actually you're getting a alignment done on your car, what they do is they loosen this and then they turn, and that actually runs. It makes this longer or shorter depending on the which way it needs to go with the spec. I'm guessing I probably got this thing pretty close, but I am going to take it to get a line because I'm going to have to put 2 new tires on the front. So I'm going to back off and I'm going to show you the tire that came off of this and why it's so important when you start suspecting you have a suspension problem in the front end that you get your that you check the components and make sure that you have it right. All right, this is the tire that came off of that side. You can see how much I've actually got a lot of probably another, couple thousand miles of tread on this side, but on the inside, it's worn down to the radial now. These tires are actually very old, even they look on the inside, they look pretty good. So that was going to need to replace these anyway. I've got a guy down the road. I can probably get brand new spanking tires for this car for about $60 a piece. So that's not too bad. Add another $50 for an alignment job. Probably get a lot of quite a few more miles out of this old girl. So I'm going to wrap it up right there. All we're going to do now is put the tire back on, take it out for a test drive. I'm sure everything's going to be okay. I'm going to tighten up the adjustment bolt in the back, and we're going to call that a win. Again, thank you for visiting the channel. If this is your first time here, please be sure to check out my other videos. If you're returning, again, thank you so much for the continued support. Consider a subscription. Like the video if you think this is going to help you out in the future. And you guys have a good evening.